amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remember blessed. Whenever you look my video, whenever you watch my video, share the video to all platforms. Share it to family and friends. Share it in your WhatsApp group so that people can get information on what is happening in the contraption called Nigeria, mainly against the Biafrans, against the Duduas, against the indigenous people in the contraption called Nigeria. I try as much as possible to set the record straight. I don't preach hate speech. I don't speak against people. I set the record straight. The only important thing I do here is to make sure that the plight of the people remains on the front burner and the world will know the true story of what is going on in the contraption called Nigeria.
Are already seated here, right here in the studio to take a look at this. Right Honorable Nemeka Madwago was a former speaker of the Imo State House of Assembly. Also joining him is Olusola Sani, a member of Atiku Media Office. We'll be looking at this when we come back. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. We earlier told you that we will be having our first interview this morning. And of course, we did remind you that yesterday that the 2019 People's Democratic Party presidential candidate who made his declaration in Abuja promised, amongst other things, to unify, provide security, quality education, and run a liberal government. And that, of course, is none other person than the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. But beyond that conversation, the questions are being asked, what is it that Nigerians really want from a candidate? And the conversation on zoning and calling also comes to play.
Very important. So we'll have our guests in the house who will be looking at this and try to analyze what it is all about. Right Honorable Nemeka Madwago, right here seated, former Speaker, Imo State House of Assembly. Welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
All right, Olusola Sani, a member of Atiku Media Office, is also here.
Good morning.
Okay, let's begin with you. First, let's look at Nigeria as a nation and look at where we are today and where we're coming from. First of all, are there issues in Nigeria today that you think has not been properly handled, that any aspirant who wants to take over the #1 seat of Nigeria should begin to tackle immediately?
Definitely. There are lots of issues that have not been handled. We are not making progress in this country. In fact, I should say we are going backwards. And that's because there are basic fundamental issues that need to be tackled. #1, in my estimation, is what people call restructuring, the structure of this country. At independence, this country was a negotiated country. There were conferences at those London conferences where the then leaders of this country, the Ahmadu Bellos, the Zigs, the Awolowos, came together and negotiated a country. And that negotiation gave us the independent constitution. That constitution was negotiated. Since then, I don't think we have really had a truly negotiated constitution. In 1978, there was a constituent assembly. But what came out as the constitution wasn't what the constituent assembly substantially agreed on, because the military tinkered with it and came up with what they thought should be our constitution. And that had been the trend. The current constitution we have now, which is almost a reproduction of the 79 constitution, is also a product of the military. The military thing, comes up. So we don't really have a negotiated constitution. So I believe that if we truly want to make progress, because our country is diverse, unity in diversity. Our old national anthem said, though tribes are tongue may differ, in brotherhood we live, because they recognize that diversity. So I believe that if we truly want to make progress, the first thing is for us to come down and look at this country, agree on what we are going to. Are we going to be a merit-driven society, for instance? Or are we going to be a society that is going to be driven by, we can call it federal character or whatsoever? Or where do we strike the balance in these things? So these things are critical for us to make progress, accommodating everybody. And until we do that and have that unity. For instance, also, let me also say this. In the First Republic, up until the Civil War, our economy was driven by local products from different places. The oil came in and everything was abandoned. In fact, we are running this constitution, we have continued to run this because of oil. Because if the oil dries up today and there is no money to be divided, everybody's going to sit down to talk. But we need to do that. Until we do that, I don't think we'll make progress.
All right, still staying with you, Honorable. A lot of Nigerians thought that perhaps 2021 was quite a bad year, coming from the fact that we're exiting a time where COVID-19 pandemic, shattered the economy. Inflation was at its worst. We're in 2022. People are hopefully thinking that there will be a respite, and then we'll see a scarcity in PMS. We'll see ASO on strike. We'll see lack of electricity, and then we'll see a very incompassionate, demeanor by the ruling party, especially in terms of insecurity. Now, whoever is going to take Nigeria from this doldrum perhaps should also understand that we are facing one of the most turbulent economic crises that we've ever faced in decades. Do you think that with the candidates you have seen so far, I mean, we saw a declaration yesterday by the former vice president, we've seen some consultations, people like Anyem, several people, even with the APC. Do you think that the candidates so far give you a ray of hope in looking at changing the turn of tide for Nigeria?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that what we have, nothing can be as bad as what we have now. I sincerely believe that. Because this was a government that ran on chain mattress, security, corruption, and all this. And all the indices we have gone down. Now, looking at the candidates we have now, yesterday, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar declared. And one of the things that I admire about him is the foresight. If we look back, we are talking about petroleum scarcity. If we look back 5-6 years ago, he boldly came out and said that the way to go to solve this problem was to privatize our petroleum industry. And everybody abused him. So there was so much abuse. He wanted to sell our national assets for you and your friends to buy it. We are at the refineries. So much money has been put in. Turnaround has been done 4 or 5 times. Billions of dollars lost. We are at the refineries. We are hoping that Dangote will get it right, which is still private sector driven. But we had refineries that should have been running if we did the right thing. So when you see that type of courage in somebody to say this is the way to go, knowing fully well that it may not be popular, but you have the courage to say it, then I believe that's the type of person we should look at. Equally, on the same man, on the same man also, I vividly remember that more than 10, 50 years ago, I think that was 2007, when he came up with the idea that we must restructure this country, what I was saying earlier. At the point he said it, there was no politician from northern Nigeria of his stature that had the courage to say that. It's a very unpopular thing in the northern part of this country. The call for restructuring at that point. Everybody's beginning to see that that's the way to go to. But at that point, it was difficult. So he had the courage, even then, to say, let us restructure this country. So what I admire about him, and why I personally am identifying with him, despite the fact I vividly acknowledge I'm Igbo, I vividly acknowledge and the justice in an Igbo presidency, because we've not had it before. I recognize that totally. But at this moment in time, what I admire in his person is that courage, that foresight, because we need somebody at this point in time that recognizes the fundamental problems and is able to tackle it. I've been listening to those who are coming out. I have not seen any of them talking about these fundamental problems.
All right, let's continue now here of the media campaign or media office of Atiku. So let's look at some takeaways from that declaration yesterday. He did talk about 5 key points that he's going to deal with: security, quality education, devolution of power, which leads to what Honorable was saying here. And then he also promised to unite Nigeria, more importantly, saying that no economy can boom in an atmosphere where there is no unity, that Nigeria is more divided now than ever. So, but my question is, we have had this rhetorics before now, even with the incumbent president. We've had rhetorics like this. At the time that the present administration was coming in, we had the mantra of change, that everything that has gone wrong in this country will be revived and Nigeria will have better life. But today, everybody's singing a different song, so it seems. So, what uniqueness will Atiku bring that will make it not be normal mere rhetorics by aspirants, which we have heard over the time?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that particular question. If you ask about the takeaway about yesterday's event, I think the takeaway there for me is the speech. The speech was detailed and it was elaborate enough, unlike what you have seen before in recent past. The speech did not just talk about what I prefer to call the unity seed, which is the, like you said, the unity of the country, security, education, which is a very important thing for His Excellency. He talked about the economy too, and then the devolution of power. Now, I call it the unity seed because the fundamental, like my colleague said, the fundamental problem with Nigeria as we have today is that the unity is broken. And when there is no unity, you cannot have security. Your education will be compromised, your economy will be compromised, and then directly connected to that unity issue is devolution of powers. So I believe, like somebody rightly said yesterday, that Nigeria, as we speak today, is in an ICU, intensive care unit. You need the right hands to revive the country. And that is why for me that the important thing about the event yesterday, like I said, is that speech. And it gives a hope to a nation that had been disillusioned for a long time. For me, if there's anything we should be talking about this morning, it is interrogating that speech and looking at all the 5 key areas that His Excellency has talked about in how to restore peace and prosperity to this country. And there's one other remarkable thing, which we have not heard before, which talks to the uniqueness of the speech yesterday, is the fact that, unlike other aspirants who have come before or those who are likely to come again, is that Atiku has over the years been announcing his intention to run for president, backing it up with a policy plan. I'm not so sure that we have had the luxury of that for many other candidates or aspirants in the past. And these are not policy plans that are just inconsistent. If you look at it, the major component of his policy plans has been consistent over the years. What he does is to review them according to the demands of the time. And so, where does that take us? It takes us to also interrogate the character that you are looking at. The earlier program, somebody was talking about building the bridge, about how Chief M.K. Abiola of blessed memory was able to bring hope into our politics by his personality. That is the kind of person that Nigeria needs at this moment. A person who can represent every aspect of the society. I'm Yoruba, for instance. I'm from Osun State, and there is a part of me, or there's a part of Atiku in me, or part of me in Atiku. So that's a thing for me, is the uniqueness, that the character behind the campaign and what it represents over the years, not just now, over the years, we can interrogate it and understand that what he said yesterday and his 5 major plans are not just some breezy ideas. They are ideas that have been planted over the years, and you can check over the years. You can interrogate his plans and his personality.
Let me come to you, Honorable. A lot of people would say, yes, beyond the paper, beyond the literature, beyond the narrative that we all hear, you know, the grandeur of the speech. I mean, it's meant to take our breath away. But coming down into practicality, we are dealing with a Nigerian. His Excellency said it yesterday, that the 2023 election is no ordinary election. It's not going to be the normal election that we've experienced. In terms of experience, Honorable, Nigeria's debt profile, economy is at its worst. You're looking at the growth profile of Nigeria painted on a canvas, like somebody expressed, without colors. I mean, it's colorless. The canvas is colorless. Our debt profile is projected at 35.4 trillion naira. That was at about to June 30th, 2021. Servicing is about 76%. And you're talking about this in a time where insecurity is thriving. Honorable, beyond His Excellency, I'm just looking at the candidates that we have seen emerge. But what do you think should be the first approach for whoever becomes Nigeria's president? Because without finance, there is no peace.
Okay. In my opinion, I believe in this country. I believe in the capabilities of Nigerians. Before 1998, we were almost in similar situation. Very high debt profile. And we were able to, the Obasanjo administration then, which he was part of, were able to, within 4 or 5 years, liquidate that. If you give Nigerians hope, if you accommodate them, if you make the environment attractive, insecurity, tackle it, Nigeria will surmount this. Yes, the debt profile is frightening. 76% servicing is frightening. It's not good for business. But if you give Nigerians hope, we will do it. Look, between when PDP was in power, between 1999, when if you remember, we were also coming at almost 0% growth. And we achieved 8%. 8%. Before 2015, around 2013 or so, we were doing 8%, or 2012, if I'm right. So it's possible. If, of course, it's not going to be done overnight. There's no magic wand. Anybody expecting that somebody will just come in. In fact, that was part of the problem of this current administration. They overpromised. They promised impossibilities. And unfortunately, people who should know, for whatever reason, for whatever selfish reason, fell in line. Nobody interrogated what they were saying. Even people who knew the character of the people they were bringing, who had made comments about it before, overnight everything changed and we are promised Eldorado. So nobody is promising that. Nobody is expecting that overnight things will change. But if you give Nigerians hope, if you make the country stable, insecure, people can travel, move about again. Look, we have over 200 million people in this country. That is a very big mass of production that is wasting. We have probably the best climate you can think of. Every part of this country can produce something. So it's to create the environment, look at the number of out-of-school children. Where are we heading to? Look at what is happening. I remember vividly that there was a time beggars, all these people were removed from this city. But they are all back. Because where are they going to go? The whole of northern Nigeria, for instance, there's nowhere that you can actually drive 40 kilometers, and that is spreading to everywhere. It's no longer restricted. In my state, it's the same thing. You can't, comfortably do 30, 40 kilometers carefully. So we need to calm things down. We need to bring security. Number one, we need to give Nigerians hope again, and that hope can only be gotten when we have security. We need to address the fundamentals, bring everybody back together. Let there be justice, let there be accommodation. Most of what is happening, all these things, is because, look, since I was born, or let me say since my adult life, even under the military, I've never seen an accommodating administration as this. I come from the southeast. I am Igbo. And you look at the first 10 positions in this country, you will not see an Igbo man there. You go to Security Council meeting, there's no Igbo man sitting there. And the Security Council and the security of this country is being discussed. And the feel is fair? It's not fair. We need somebody who will bring everybody back together. When you bring everybody back together, things will start moving. People will feel confident about this country. The agitations will gradually die down. I sincerely believe that the agitations are products of frustration. When people are frustrated, they go to extreme.
All right, let's get Lushala in here now. Listening to Atiku yesterday, one thing that stood out for me is that he said he doesn't believe he's a miracle worker. He doesn't believe he can do it alone, but he's going to mop up crops of intellectuals, people who have got capacity, technocrats from here and there, to ensure that he forms a government that will deliver on some of these promises. That you don't tell people to go to the farm when the farm is not secured like we have today. But then, each time anybody has such a mind to change Nigeria, to make things work, I wouldn't know if there's something about Asorock that when you get there, you become something else. So you become somebody different, or you find it difficult to deliver on these promises. So how should Atiku and indeed other aspirants, guard against, not being able to deliver on what they have promised? Because it's one thing to say you will do this and you want to do it really, but you get there are some things that don't allow you to get it done, like we hear about cabals, we hear about things like that.
You see, let me approach this question in a two-dimensional way. Let me talk about that speech again. Probably what many Nigerians don't know about that speech is that His Excellency actually worked with a team of young Nigerians to produce that speech. And that decision is specific because he says, for instance, that the Nigeria we are talking about, the future we are talking about, belongs to the youth. So everything we are doing, everything we must do to rescue Nigeria must involve the youth. We must understand their mindset. We must understand their nuances and the kind of future that they desire. So if you look at that speech very well, you will see that it's very believable because it came from a very honest source. Yeah, very honest source. Because these are young Nigerians who are in his close team. And if you take that further and interrogate, like I keep saying, the article that we see, you will see Nigeria around him all the time. It's not, we all know that it doesn't incline to one specific interest, tribal or religious. What he looks at, like he said yesterday during the speech, is he sees in everybody in Nigeria, and he expects from everybody the best. And not just that, when you give me your best, expect the best of me too in return. And these are the things, because, like you said, it's easy to make promises, and when you get to the villa, you get confused. And that is where the issue of experience comes in. That is where the situation that the country is right now requires an experienced hand. Villa, whatever that is in there, is not...
It's not novel to him.
It's not novel to him, like, thank you. It's not novel to him. And beyond that, the intricacies that may undermine policy formulation and implementation, he understands it. So he is different from any new candidate who hasn't had the villa experience, who hasn't undergone through the process. And look at it again. In the Obasanjo, okay, let me put it this way. The entry point to this republic is the Obasanjo era. And we know how, almost similar to what we experience now, the country was at that time. The country was almost at its knees, because the issue about unity was compromised then too. Economy was nosediving, and almost all the issues that you contend with now also happened then. And now, their administration came in, and we understand and we know that he was practically the driver of the economy at that time. And one of the important things that I want to say today is that we have derailed from the path where state actors spend policies, because the currency of the state is policy exchange. But now it is about people saying that we spent billions of dollars to do what's it called? Space terminal. We spent so dollars of this to buy military equipment and all of those things. I'm sorry, anybody can do that. Anybody with the big pocket can do that. But what is unique to the state actor is policy. And if you look at article, every time it comes to the field, it comes with a policy document, because that is the currency of exchange in government business.
Okay, still staying with you.
I don't know if I can say something on that person. Yeah. You see, you're talking of people going to Asorock, and it appears that when they get there, they change. The presidency, by its nature, insulates the person who is there. We as Nigerians have a responsibility to provide. Let's not be psychophants. Let's not always, because the people that surround the president, the Nigerian system, they surround the people in power, often don't tell them what is the true feeling. Even the security services that should actually send information, bring intelligence, a lot of times they are compromised. But you see, and if you are a president or a person in power, and you only have these official sources of information, I can tell you that you won't get it right, because you might think you are doing the right thing, but you are not hearing, you are not getting the pulse of the Nigerian citizens. But if you are a president that you have other networks, because you are grounded. If they say something is happening in Abeokuta, the intelligence comes from the different security agencies. You pick your phone also. You know one or two trusted people who will tell you the truth. You call them. You will get information. You compare it with what you are getting officially. If they say something is happening in Abakaliki, you know somebody you can call to compare with what is coming to you officially. In that, you will perform better. Because if you rely on the official information, and then the few people who have access, who are also, most of the time almost officials also, you won't do well at all. And I think that's a major problem with this administration. I think it's a major challenge where the president appears hijacked by those who are close to him, and he doesn't seem to know what is the true feeling of Nigerians. But if you look at the man we are talking of, I think one of the things that people admire about him is he has been able to build that network and capacity across this country. And I think that really, really will help. And I think that's one of the reasons the Obasanjo administration, coming from a military era, were able to stabilize. Because you had two persons who had network across this country. So I believe that we all have a duty to help, including the press also.
Okay, let me come back to Lushola, because I was going to take it from where you talked about experience of a leader. I remember that in October 22nd, 2021, His Excellency did give a speech during the 70th birthday of High Chief Raymond Douglas. He talked about the power sector. He challenged the federal government that the power sector cannot be the way it is and expect results. Nigeria has to be able to afford to look at its technological prowess. And here we are in 2022 with an epileptic power, exchange. In fact, a non-available power, exchange. And again, why I'm bringing this conversation is because you talked about experience. Then the conversation on zoning comes in. If you listen to the newspaper reviewers this morning, they talked about peace and justice. You cannot have peace in the absence of justice. And when you talk about justice, there is an element of fair play in that conversation. Now, where does the conversation on zoning come in? Because there has been a lot of, controversy surrounding this particular idea within the People's Democratic Party, and perhaps some of the conversations in the APC, but majorly in the PDP. What are your stakes on zoning, especially with this 2023 election?
Okay, thank you. You have asked me two questions now, so let me start from the first.
Yeah.
You see, on the issue of energy, I think one of the highlights of the speech yesterday is that he's going to come up with a comprehensive energy policy. And that is not a flippant statement to say. He believes so much in technology. He believes so much in technology. And I believe that driving the energy of a vast country like Nigeria must require us to take a multi-sector approach to it. Currently, we have only focused on gas, and we have other sources of energy that you can deploy technology to tap. So we don't have the policy. The policy document is going through a review right now, and until it is unveiled, I may not be in a position to talk extensively on the components or the ideas that we may likely have under his administration. But what I know for sure is that he's a man that moves with the line of technology, with the trend of technology, and that he's going to deploy that extensively in solving issues around electricity generation and education. We are going to have an administration that we deploy technology extensively in these two areas. That one I know for sure. So coming back to the issue of zoning, you see, these are legitimate concerns. The issue about zoning is born out of, like you said, frustration. When there is frustration in the land, the first thing that you take away is unity and peace, because agitation comes up and it becomes a crisis or near crisis. It's leading us almost to a crisis situation now, because Nigeria's unity has been broken. It has been violated. And it became more intense under, unfortunately, this current administration. But that is not the concern. The concern is to say, why do we even have democracy in the first place? Because I see democracy beyond the concept of electing new leaders at every election cycle. Democracy in its own nature is a problem-solving concept, in such a way that anyone who emerges as president of this country must be someone who is able to negotiate and accommodate all the interests, all the diverse interests that are existing on the table right now. So the conversation about zoning is healthy. If you ask me, it's a healthy conversation about our democracy, about our nationhood, because it is bringing to the fore the frustration and agitation of people. So we cannot dismiss it. We have to embrace it. And one of the ways to embrace it is to make sure that we negotiate our terms, our coexistence along the line with it. So I'm sorry, madam. Okay. I'm sorry, ma'am. And that is why we are, as you speak also, we talk about the personality. The personality is very important because there are sections, particularly Southeast in this country has not produced a president, and that is where the major hit is coming from. And if you look at it, it's a very legitimate concern. We cannot wish it away. It's legitimate. It's a fact. But again, merely electing a Southeasterner as president does not solve all our problems. It does not solve all our problems. We need to move beyond that. We need to move towards a consensus building, nation building personality, moving towards 2023 and beyond. And that is where the character of Atiku, in my own opinion, comes to play. He represents all of the interests that exist in this country.
All right. He may represent all the interests, like you said, and that speech yesterday was also quite robust, like you've alluded to, and very convincing as well. Sure. And from both of you here, everybody believes Atiku can deliver. But he still has a hurdle to cross.
Sure, yeah.
Because we're hearing voices from the same political party saying, hey, we're not going to allow somebody from the north again to become the president in 2023, at least in the party. We've had the likes of Governor Wike, we've had the likes of Zamfara, Tambuwal, the Sokoto state government. We have that of Saraki and the rest of them who are also thinking about forming consensus candidates. They all want to aspire to become president. So that is where it comes in. If Atiku is one who is a unifier, like everybody has said, and wants justice and fair play, wouldn't that justice and fair play begin from allowing people who haven't had a taste of that presidency to go first?
Let's start from the conversation within the PDP that you talked about. You see, one of the major selling points of the PDP as a political party is that it is a democratic party. And like I said earlier, democracy is beyond electing leaders at every cycle of 4 years. It's a problem-solving mechanism in itself. So all of these conversations about governors forum, this and that, they are part of the healthy conversations that we should be having. Because, like you said, those conversations are bringing our frustrations on the table. And when we evaluate all of these things, then we can have a consensus around how we come together and live together, addressing each of those concerns.
From the media office, is he really is he consulting with these governors who have
absolutely, yes, absolutely. He cannot be president of. No, get this right. By the grace of God, when Atiku will be president of this country, he will not be president of the north, he will not be president of the south. He will be president of Nigeria. And like I keep saying, every component of this country can relate with his leadership. And that is, for me, his major selling point. It will be good if we have 2 or 3 of him. It will make the electoral process more robust, more fanciful. But as it is today, in my opinion, is one character, one personality that fits the moment that we are in right now. It will be good if we have 2 or 3 of him so that we can make the electoral process can be more colorful.
All right, let me come to Honorable. Nigeria's unity has never been negotiable. It's always been at the forefront of the conversation, even though some agitations have, argued that. Some of the people who are also going around doing consultations, she also mentioned Tambuwal, Saraki. Ayem has also been doing a lot of consultation. There have been permutations from Wike on the other side, even though he hasn't come out outrightly to say whether he will run or not to run. But we know that there are several interests, Bala Mohammed, etc. And from the conversation that we also saw from Tambuwal yesterday in his visit to Babangida and others, he said, well, zoning has never been the issue of any political party since 1979. That what we are to look at right now is the state of Nigerianness. I do know that beyond having a taste of presidency, which is what some people say some regions would really want to encounter. There are some regions that have never encountered presidency before. But beyond the taste, shouldn't the redemption of the broken hedge called Nigeria be the most important thing for these candidates? I do know that without peace, without justice, there's no peace. But then, for peace to thrive, there has to be healing first. Isn't that where to start?
Okay, I'll answer that, but I just wanted to pass a comment on the power thing you said. Yes, it's unfortunate that after so many years we're still suffering of this power thing. But it comes back to our structure. Nigeria, as at today, has the capacity to generate up to 8,000 megawatts. But what are we generating? I mean, it's not capacity. We're generating less than 2,000 because everything must go to the national grid. Why should that be? Why should that be? Electricity? Why can't Lagos State generate on electricity, transmit it, use it?
I am speaking with you.
Why can't Abuja, if they have the capacity and the resources, generate their own electricity? Why is it that you generate? Rivers State was the first state that built a generating plant.
If you see something, say
They have to put it in the national grid.
We cannot allow
And
the
they can't
conventional media to continue to
now, after so much agitation, they are now allowing
lay
minimal
down the situation.
generating capacity. Very minimal. Where you can now generate a little bit, but that's not big. You see, these are the things we must address. When we talk of restructuring, a lot of people think, or national powers, a lot of people think it's all about revenue formula. Or this. No, there are certain fundamental things that are drawing us back. A country as large as this, you can't generate. We believe that we must put everything about electricity on the national grid and now start sharing. It's not done like that. You can decide to generate for AIT. This premise is here. And then everybody is generating his personal one through his generator, using his generator. Now, coming to the question, definitely, without justice, without fair play, we can't make progress. I've always said it here. And I'm not one of those who say Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. I don't buy it. Nothing is not negotiable. We are living in a world where Soviet Union collapsed, a superpower. Where Yugoslavia collapsed, and so many other countries. So anybody deceiving himself that Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable is telling a lie. The agitations, if they are not addressed, if the issues that are happening in Nigeria, if the fault lines that are developing, it's never been this bad, are not addressed, this country will collapse in our hands. This country was negotiated. When the British were leaving, there were a series of conferences where this country was negotiated. When the minorities raised issue, there was the Willinkins Commission. All these things were part of the negotiation before this country became independent. And unfortunately, military intervention destroyed most of these things. So if anybody is saying that this country will not be negotiated, that person is not saying.
So that's what I'm asking. I mean, from the party structure and the conversation on zoning, a lot of people are saying perhaps that's where to set the right ball rolling. And maybe, just maybe, that conversation would heal the broken edges for Nigeria, and that's the much we can take, really.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your time on the show. Right Honorable Nnemeka Maduagwu, former Speaker, Imo State House of Assembly, has joined us. Olushola Sani, a member of Atiku Media Office, also joined us. We'll be looking at the 2023 presidential election and what Nigerians expect from the aspirants.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remain blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.